Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Windows. My name is Ahmed Nader and tonight I'm filling in for my colleague Dean Hussein as we will be focusing on the latest progress and development in Egypt in terms of the field of entrepreneurship and innovation and helping the young men and the young women of Egypt under the leadership, under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be better in different fields and to be having bigger goals in the near future and to be attaining those goals for the benefit of those young men and those young women and for the sake of the country, Egypt. I am honored to be having with me tonight in the studio engineer Ashraf Tawakkul, the entrepreneurship and innovation expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The honor is mine.
First of all, you do have an initiative to be helping the people in general, the people of Egypt in general, and more specifically the young men and the young women of Egypt who are trying to get into the market in different fields and different sectors to be having more benefits for the market and for themselves. Would you tell me more about it?
Yes, actually, I started working with young entrepreneurs, with youth from both sexes, more than 10 years ago to help them as a way of giving back. Because in our start, we found who helped us.
Yes.
And the only way we were able to do that in the past years were actually through established channels, like working and mentoring with accelerators and other established organizations. But actually, after the first wave of COVID-19 started hitting, we started finding a lot of our youth and startups in the early stage failing miserably, and they can't find anywhere to go to for advice. So we started this initiative sometime in early April, and the initiative was simple. With a group of colleagues, we opened up a Facebook page, and we started advertising that anybody who is facing problems in surviving his business or doesn't know what to do, specifically due to the circumstances from COVID-19, they can either email us, post a question on the page of Facebook, or we can even schedule a 5-minute call with them. We were able to help something like over 1,000 young entrepreneurs from April till June. And the rate of success actually was impressive. Something like more than 30% were able to avoid pitfalls and actually survive the crisis. We hope to continue. We're continuing this, and we hope to have better support, and a lot of other colleagues are joining as well to help them.
1,000 entrepreneurs from different ages and different sectors trying to be surviving what happened not just in Egypt but all over the world and in the country as well. Would you tell me more about the biggest problems that you have faced or the entrepreneurs had faced during the period from April to June, and how did you manage to be solving them?
There is no one solution that fits all. That's for sure. The main problem is, and that's why the young people don't see it, it comes with a lot of expertise and actually failing a lot. And that's where me and my colleagues come from. We tried things before and we failed. But the problem is with crises, the behavior of the users, their customers, changes. And with the change of the behavior, usually your plans fail.
You need to change the product.
You need to change the product, or you need to change the packaging of the product, or you maybe want to servitize the product, turn the product into a service. So, and most of the entrepreneurs were in the food industry. That's the main industry that everybody
Why
is
do you
working.
think a lot of people are heading that way?
It's because it's the biggest market in Egypt, and with food it's not just restaurants. In food you talk about small farms, you talk about organic agriculture, you talk about delivery, there is a lot of services and products around the general industry of food. The problem is that this is dependent on long cultural behaviors established before. Everything started breaking on hard rocks when COVID started hitting, and then when we started closing officially sometime in March, a lot of things were out of order. People who were selling, but there was no shipping, for instance. I have a startup that was selling home decorations, and they had to, so we told them, deliver by yourself. It was easy. Add some extra and start delivering with themselves. And then we actually hooked them up with another startup that did nothing except delivering food. But since the food delivery was in the beginning stopped, we told them deliver something else. So it's how you can find the synergy between the startups and get them to talk to each other and help each other out. And this is, to be very frankly, this is one thing I didn't really anticipate at the beginning of the crisis, because Egyptians are known to be an open and a friendly culture. But it turns out that maybe the fear of competition does not make the startups and the small entrepreneurs talk to each other. Even if they're in the same field, you could help each other out. So collaboration is really key when you look at any entrepreneurship ecosystem.
For the benefit of all of us.
For the benefit of them all.
Yes.
Nobody's going to take a bigger share than he can. And nobody's going to take, as a startup at least, you're not going to take the entire market. So better work with 2-3 other entrepreneurs, help each other out instead of getting muscled out completely.
And we see the same technique being applied for the bigger companies and the
bigger companies are doing it for,
all over the world.
All over the world. And in the countries, even in Africa, the other countries that have stronger ecosystems, that are more mature, they started before us in supporting entrepreneurship, there are networks between the entrepreneurs. We're trying to do this with our initiative. We're trying to link the entrepreneurs with each other, because at the end of the day, ideas are shared, and the more we collaborate on solving a problem, the easier we can come out of it.
You've mentioned that you started dealing with the entrepreneurs and dealing with the youth 10 years ago.
Yes.
2011.
Yes.
After the revolution?
After the revolution.
How did you see the change in culture, the change in enthusiasm for the young men and the young women here in Egypt after 2011, after 2013, and under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi afterwards?
And everything was chaotically positive, I can say, after 2011.
Yes.
The enthusiasm was high. We had initiatives coming from abroad trying to help us on doing that. There was no clear leadership. So we had a couple of initiatives. And frankly speaking, I joined them at the beginning, helping people. And I was not very much happy with the outcome. The youth are very, very enthusiastic. But I think it was aiming at trying to drain us from our talent. The real change came after 2013, because with 2013, the actual initiative of supporting entrepreneurship became official. We have different laws to support entrepreneurship even before 2011, but it was never clear as a clear mandate, as a clear initiative, with clear understanding that it has deep economical and developmental effects that can change the face of the culture in Egypt and change the face of the future of Egypt. And the beauty of it, it's actually involving youth.
Yes.
So after 2013, there started to be a lot of initiatives in Egypt, specifically on the funding part.
Yes.
And that's where we started working more with the organizations, the governmental and the non-governmental organizations that support entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs needs a lot of mentoring, a lot of help. They're young, and the way to entrepreneurship, to disrupt the market, to introduce a new product or service into the market, is always vague. It's vague, even for experienced people. So what we try to do is to help them understand the concepts of the market. Most of our entrepreneurs come from technical backgrounds. So number one, they lack a little bit of business, sometimes a lot of business acumen. And the more important thing is that the culture in Egypt is not supporting. These were the two very tough things. Up till now. Now there is a little more understanding about entrepreneurship. We're seeing programs, more programs like yours here, trying to shed some light on what's going on. But it's not just the culture of the entrepreneurs. There is definitely things needing to be changed there. But I'm talking about as well the culture of the people. The failures in entrepreneurship is way more than the successes. And as a culture, we have to understand and learn that failing is not wrong. Actually, failing means we are approaching more. We're coming closer to a solution. So we are not a very forgiving culture so far when it comes to failing. The other part is we always look at them as they are small companies. Why are you doing that? You're not earning enough money if you just get a job. And so we need, from a culture point as well, give those entrepreneurs status. They need to understand that they are doing something extremely important. They are very, very important to the economy. All developed countries and developing countries. In Africa, I'm not going to talk about the States, I'm not going to talk about China, but even in Africa, the main catalyst of development and change is entrepreneurship. So the better we support these people, the quicker we can change the culture, and not just by giving them funding, no, by helping them achieve status, by helping them with the policies, by helping them with mentoring and education, the more quickly we can have a stronger ecosystem where they can really do miracles.
There has been change in Egypt after 2011, after 2013, after President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took office 6 or 7 years ago. How do you see the political leadership's will as an important factor in pushing the youths of Egypt to be having their own business, to be your own boss, to be having your own idea and to propagate it and gain money from it? How do you see President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's initiatives to be instructing the banks to be giving out more loans with less benefits? How do you see those instructions and directives?
Those are actually great initiatives. I'm not saying that because they're coming just from the president, but this is really an informed decision. It's well discussed, it's well studied. Because without proper finance channels, we cannot sustain them. So yes, we do have a lot of initiatives. I remember I was having a discussion a couple of days ago with somebody in the system, in the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, and he was asking my opinion, how can we make investments better? And I told him, actually, I don't see that we need to focus on investments anymore right now, because as far as I'm concerned, the government has done everything they can do. We even, recently, we even have not venture capital, we have even venture debt. So from a money market point of view, we do have venture capital. We are open for people to come to fund the startups from outside. The banks are providing small loans. We are working even on micro startups, very, very small businesses, not just small and medium businesses. So the problem is not just finance alone. The problem on the other side is that the other things, the government can do it alone. Okay, so all the financial initiatives and putting those in place are important. Maybe the government will need to put more stress on the policies that can facilitate a better understanding of entrepreneurship. I dream of having all these separate initiatives grouped under one umbrella instead of having every ministry, every university doing its own initiative. Again, as I said, collaboration is key here. You don't want the entrepreneurs to be subject to the old dilemma of getting an advice from one body and then second day he's meeting another expert. He says, no, who told you to do this? Do this. And because we have them scattered, we have a lot of demand from the youth. The youth are more open than our generation. They are open to what's happening outside of Egypt. So they really understand and appreciate taking their own destiny by their own hands, trying to be their own bosses. But that needs help as well from us on the other side.
Yes, they do need help. And in my opinion, you've mentioned that everyone is going through the food industry. I want to be working in this industry. I want to be gaining money, as you mentioned, that this is an easy investment, if I can call it
Yes.
that way. Yes, that's an easy investment. I guarantee it that my money will be put here in a couple of months. They will be returned doubled. In your opinion, how can I guide the youth of Egypt to be going in other places, to be discovering other businesses, to be seeing some sectors that need help and they could be gaining money out of it? How do you see the importance of doing this as early as possible?
This is extremely important, and I really admire very much and agree totally with what you said. I will just change one word.
Yes.
I will take out the word sector and I will call it market. One main pillar of having a strong entrepreneurship ecosystem in any country is the responsibility of defining markets. Markets is where these products and services are going to go. You might have an extremely nice service, very good service, but it only serves a very, very tiny set of people, and you cannot price it higher than a certain price, then there is no market. A market is a place where you find buyers, lots of buyers, and lots of provided services with different, this opens innovation. And the markets have to be internal as well as external. Without naming countries, one of our neighbors is way smaller than us. They have one of the, they are classified as the second best ecosystem in the world. And their entrepreneurs export technology outside. So they did the job 25 years ago as a government and private sector, hands in hands, through different initiatives of exploring markets that they can serve even outside of their country. We need to do this very quickly, because when we don't do that, what happens is we're losing talent. I know personally dozens of entrepreneurs, without naming names, very, very well startups, extremely innovative, that they left Egypt and went to other countries. They went to the States, some of them went to Ireland, some of them went to even Dubai. They go outside, change nationality of the business, and they stay down there because there is a market. It's not about the money. It's not about giving them money. They want to go where there is a market for what they do. So those people, we can retain them inside Egypt and let them serve those markets through proper channels. So one extremely important thing we have to do collaboratively as the private sector, hands in hands with the government, under maybe another initiative, is to define markets. And that will help us, or actually it will complement the efforts of Vision 2030, specifically when we talk about education, because education is another way, is another pillar that helps getting out good talent, as we call them in the business. Talent is needed because you need talent to do the startup, you need talent to work with the startup. We don't need the entire country to be entrepreneurs. They can be intrapreneurs. These are the two things. An entrepreneur actually takes the initiative and put his own money. This is a problem I see now with our focus on funding. Every single entrepreneur starts a startup, wants to get funded. It doesn't work like that. I was just looking at some statistics before I came into the studio, and we used to say 1%. It's actually 0.5%. That's the normal average worldwide of entrepreneurs who pitch for funding get funded. 0.5%. So that means...
So how do I get the money if I want to be starting my own business?
You have to prove that you are capable. 77% of entrepreneurs worldwide start their startups with less than $5,000 from their own savings. One classical thing that we tell every entrepreneur: don't quit your daily job until you validate your business model. Validate your business model. What's going to happen? You're going to, you're going to quit going to the coffee shop at the afternoon? Well, be it. You want to be the boss of your own. Yes. You want to be a company. Maybe you have dreams to be a unicorn.
Double your efforts.
Double your efforts. If you don't double your efforts now, when are you going to double it? So don't quit your daily job. If your daily job is feeding you and is going to help you spend tiny bits amount of money, give the commitment, then you're closer to get a fund when you have something really on the ground. But from early startups, less than 1%, that's half an entrepreneur for every 100 entrepreneurs get funded. So we cannot, I think this is because now we have exerted a lot of effort under the different initiatives to put a good network of funding. That's quite good, okay. I think we need some minor regulation for that, maybe open the room for other channels with other technologies like crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, for equity, crowdfunding for products, but as well, we need to focus on getting markets, proper markets, maybe making more competition, availing market data to the entrepreneurs. One of the biggest things they face is they don't have enough data. Everything they have to validate by going down to the ground. And they still will have to go down to the market and the ground and observe their customers and ask their customers. It's not an easy job. Entrepreneurship is not a way to being rich in 2-3 years. It's not this.
Do you think there is misinformation here in Egypt that I need to be being my own boss and quitting the daily job of mine and having my own business and gaining all the money I can make? And this is all false expectations?
It's not false expectations. It's actually a mix of expectations. Let me try to put it, I don't want to take too long, but let me put it into a different perspective.
Yes.
When we talk about entrepreneurship has been defined previously that it has two faces. There is what we call, or MIT calls it SMEs, which is small and medium enterprises. And then there is what is called IDEs, which is innovation-driven enterprises. Both of them are entrepreneurships, but usually economists and the economies and countries favor more the innovation-driven because they take longer to establish, but they actually generate more money, they generate more jobs. And that's the whole idea.
Yes.
So I like to differentiate them in Egypt differently. I consider both of them entrepreneurs. And the people I favor more are the people who make a positive change to the market they touch. So what is the difference in general between the both? For example, the masks after COVID-19. That's anybody who started a mask factory, and that was very well governed from the government and regulated. We had professionally ready specs, so everyone who wanted to open even a small factory, a workshop to produce health masks, did it according to specs. Now, this is an SME. Why? There is no innovation here, but there is a market. There is demand. So the problem is there is a mix in the heads of the youth between both. So they bump into, the people who bump into innovation-driven, who want to disrupt something, like, if I can say names, like a startup called Trella, like another startup, like lots of startups that are trying to use technology to introduce a new solution.
Yes.
They mix it with the SME. So again, it's something related to culture. Again, it is something related to culture. And I think the problem is that this is a long historical culture. We have been for so many years, for centuries, we are an agricultural country and on a flat land with a great river going all the way through the country. So there is a reason to mix between what needs more time and what can get more money. For me, I'd love to support both, and we've been supporting both of them. And in the food industry, I have startups that are doing great technological achievements, even in the way they plant and they grow their vegetables. Beautiful. And others who are merely using internet to distribute vegetables among households in different districts. Okay, that's a good entrepreneur because, yes, he's just filling in a demand. He will most probably grow quicker. I don't believe he needs funding if he gets organized and go bit by bit, he will unfold more profits and he will be able to grow quicker. But the other guys who are adopting another technology, a new technology that saves water, that saves using chemicals, that is more greener, that needs a lot to spend in the beginning, they are getting out great organic vegetables with a fraction of the price of normal organic vegetables.
Yes.
They will take longer. And these are the type of startups that we want them to get more availed to finance and initiatives. But again, it's a free market. You cannot tell private investors what to invest and what not to invest.
It is their own
It's their own, yes.
Yes, and their own
And
business.
to be very honest, even they know that. A funded company by an investor, they make mistakes. Doesn't mean and guarantee that this company is doing well. It's
a
just
risk.
it's a risk,
It is
and
a
it's a
risk.
calculation. It's a personal thing. So, and we still are honing that experience in Egypt. Back in the States, which is where we have the best ecosystem for entrepreneurship, there are very, very clever venture capitalists. They only invest in specific things. They put hands on, not for 2 months, not for 3 months. They put hands on with the entrepreneur in managing it until it passes. So they can stay with them on the board for 3, for 4, for 5 years. They help them. And when I had
A long-term plan, because
it's a long-term
I see
plan.
potential in this
Yes.
idea.
And in the States, I remember attending a conference, and one of the advices was given to startups. It was about funding. Don't pick the investor that's going to give you more money. Pick the investor is going to give you more effort. This is something we need to see happening
More
here in
patience.
Egypt. Patience
we need
and
patience.
effort, because
Yes.
they need all the help. They need all the help. And 1 + 1 doesn't equals 2. It equals 3 or 4.
You've been in this field for about 10 years or more?
I've been an entrepreneur myself since 1992. So I have been for most of
No, in helping others as well.
helping others. I've been doing this on a non-official thing since 2006, when we first started having the glimpse with the first venture capital coming to Egypt, and we started talking about it. It was mainly in the field of technology, but I've been doing it as a main part of my life since 2011, and I have been doing it almost full time for the last 3 years.
So you started personally in 1992. What was the field that you started with?
It's this big building. I started in broadcast. I'm an architect. I started in the beginning as a designer and an urban designer. So I worked for a couple of international organizations in preserving our great monuments. And then in 1991, I had this vision of digitalization. And I wanted to introduce digital equipment to the field of media.
In 1991.
1991, we started actually selling and having access and selling in Egypt and the rest of the Middle East in
And you
1992,
were among
93.
the first people to do so in
Yes,
Egypt.
in Egypt. We were the first young people. We had 2 or 3 competitors. They were happy showing the expensive equipment and doing services themselves without selling. We said, we're not going to do a service. We want everybody to do the service. So we are going to teach everybody how to do it. And in the way, we had to Arabize some things, because we discovered that our animators, our editors, the big industry is not very much friendly with English when it comes to equipment and computers. And so we started Arabizing things. And by 2000, when I sold the company to another company, to a big conglomerate in Egypt, when we sold the company in 2000, we had media customers in the broadcast industry, from production and post-production and televisions all across the Middle East.
But
We had the biggest market share by far.
But you started in a field, and it's like you switched.
To another field.
That
That
takes courage as well.
Yeah, I am what
Back
they, people that they like to call me serial entrepreneur. And I don't want to say that's a disease, but it's tiring. Because when you hit success and you do something well and you get a good opportunity to sell, so you sell it, you just stay restless. So you see the other opportunity coming in.
You
And
want to start over.
so you go on and start over. And maybe that's because my nature, I'm a designer. I was trained to solve problems. So it's my nature to get into knowing people's problems and trying to solve them. And maybe that's why I started helping the entrepreneurs and finding ways to help entrepreneurs.
So you've been in this field for about 30 years now.
Yes.
What is the most impressive idea that you have seen in your time as an entrepreneur, as a helper, as a founder? What is the impressive idea, the most impressive idea that you have seen so far?
Without mentioning names, there are a couple of ideas recent. Most of them are very, very recent, to be very honest with you.
Yes.
But one of the eldest one is hardware, is stepping into 3D printing. I really found that very courageous.
3D printing.
3D printing.
That is for the ceiling, for the walls.
That's for everything. And they're not just doing it as a service. I know he's a very close friend now, and he's one of the people that I really was honored to mentor him 3 or 5 years ago and help him find his way. And he is actually building 3D printers in Egypt, and he's moving from one sophistication level to another more sophisticated level, serving very, very fine industries, change the way they work, like in jewelry, like in dentistry. So he's not just doing 3D for decorations. No, he's taking it very serious, and he's a very, very good entrepreneur.
What about the other idea?
The other idea, there are a couple of other ideas. These are really fresh. One of them was pre-COVID. It had to do with fintech, which is the financial technology. How can we go? There are a couple of actually very, very good ideas there. They are not completely new, but the way they adopted them to the Egyptian market was impressive. And currently I am working with with a startup and a couple of old entrepreneurs on a medical startup. I cannot really talk about it a lot, but the idea is quite impressive. We're not talking just about telemedicine. No, we're talking about how can we really save lives.
But how did you go from one phase to the other, from being yourself an entrepreneur in 1992 to be helping others in 2011, and as you mentioned, in the past 3 years, you are fully dedicated to the cause? What is the difference between at least 2011 and in the past 3 years for you?
For me, it's the momentum. Seeing that, I always tell my mentees, Egypt is a very, very special country. The river has been unifying us. But people who didn't travel a lot across Egypt, like myself, don't know or understand that Egypt has more than 17 different civilizations.
Yes.
And thus, we have very special problems. And those problems will never be solved by getting experts from outside. I worked in the field of development with the USAID, with the United Nations, with the ILO back in the 90s. And until now, I go and come with them on assignments. And the real advancing of this country and the real solutions to those problems will only come from bright local minds, if given the help. I have been seeing this accelerating year after year. And that's why I keep putting more time into it. And more organizations, international organizations now, are getting involved. So we can find a way of dedicating more time to do that. So I do training, I do coaching, I do consulting with different international organizations, mainly and specifically to entrepreneurs in Egypt.
Yes. And finally, your last message for the youths of Egypt, for this market or this field. I don't know if they're going to understand this, but I will say it in another word. There is a call
back in the 70s, stay hungry, stay foolish. That's what Steve Jobs used to tell to the young people. So, but I will say it in another way. Entrepreneurship is about persistency. We tell you to fail quickly, but that's not contradicting with persistence. Chase your dream, follow your dreams, trust Allah that everything is going to be fine, and go after it. You, the youth of this country, are the future of this country. You are the main catalyst to change, positive change of Egypt.
It's a brilliant message at the end of our interview for tonight. Engineer Ashraf Tawakkul, the entrepreneurship and innovation expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on Windows.
Thank you very much. The honor is all mine. Thank you.
And this brings us to the end of Windows for this week. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.